Welcome back to more of the Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky SC. Last time we repaired the pump at Elmo Hot Springs and also dealt with just about every remaining monster in the region. This time we have one more quest to deal with in Ruin, and it requires us to hand over one more ZFG. And here's where we have a major problem. So, I would recommend keeping a separate save file from this point. I've stressed this before, but I'll just say it again. When you turn in your ZFG to the third and final Bracer Guild, everything in Grand Cell is going to become closed off to you forever. Make sure you've bought all of the food items that are in there, and make sure you do all of your business at Mayor Dalmore's dubious Seepers shop. Before you do this, this is your absolute last chance to access anything decent in Grand Cell. But I think I'm okay, so we're gonna head inside the Ruined Bracer Guild. Hey there, Jean. Haven't seen you in a while. Not sure Jean's very well acquainted with Zin, actually. Yeah, I swapped Zin back into the party from Tita because, yeah, we're only going to have one ZFG going forward, so we're going to want a physical heavy party. Also, you haven't met Joshua in a while. Ruin wasn't hit quite as hard as Zeiss, but losing the bridge was definitely a blow. It just had to be in the upright position at the time, although it being stuck in the downright position would be bad for ships, so I guess, yeah, you were screwed either way. And, I've already said this before, but him being hit with that right at the start of his term in office, that would be, yeah. Oh, I didn't realize the church was helping. And Estelle is actually partly to thank for that. Yeah, we've already experienced that. It's entirely possible to talk to him from coming the other direction via Bose, and that way you won't get that conversation, so it is kind of interesting. Hopefully, though, you won't need to think about that for much longer, because we'll almost be done with all this. So, we're gonna go ahead and fix your phone. Also, the roads are a lot safer now those balancing clowns and petrifying robots are out of the way. Ruin wasn't really hit particularly hard by the Society, so it kind of makes sense they wouldn't be as familiar with how they operate, but yeah, that's just kind of interesting. So yeah, you are actually forced to set up the ZFG the moment that you enter, and if it's the last guild branch that you need to deliver one to, it's going to set in motion certain events. But fortunately, every other receiver is functional right now. And we get paid for this. I'll make sure to turn in hot spring restoration as well when I next get control. So, Jenis is mentioning this is your hint to the hidden quest in this area. The orphans have already been evacuated, but, the school has not been checked yet. And that's where we'll be going for our final side quest. And yep, we can go ahead and call our allies. Let's get everyone over here, because we actually will need them here for the quest. We've already done everything, but we can at least report hot spring restoration too. 10,000 mirror for that, which is actually pretty good because, yeah, that was a lot of work. So, yeah, when you try and leave whichever Bracer Guild you visit last, this happens. Wow, okay, that's gotta be important. Definitely important. So, Jean says that, but, well, yeah. I, with foreknowledge of what happens, know otherwise. At this point, even approaching Grand Cell by any of the ways into that city is gonna start the point of no return, so we can't really do anything in that region from now on. But we're not gonna care about that just yet. Our main concern is checking up on the school. And before we go in, we're gonna set Heaven's Eye. And I'm also gonna switch up Estelle's Orbment because she has absolutely no need for the Time Gem now that she no longer has a ZFG. Okay, let's go. So, as we approach the school, we're immediately gonna kick off these events. And I do mean immediately. I said that we'd be dealing with these things, that you may have dealt with these things earlier in the chapter, depending on what order you visit the cities. Nice staff whack there, Estelle. Oh boy, we have an NPC to protect. This is not good, especially with these things using Windblade. But yep, it's the Blade Cougars again. So, I did give the time gem to Joshua, which is going to reduce his stats a little bit, but it's not like it matters when, you can hit these things with instant death. Speaking of which, Estelle now has the death quartz. So all of her basic hits have a 20% chance of instant death on anything that isn't immune, and I was hoping that I get that off there, but no. That brings you closer and closer to Mikey, which is not good. I think I'll just straight up whack you and then try and... Oh, that's actually bad. Can I get... Do I have Earth Wall on you? I don't. I probably should have put that on him. I could Shadow Spear. If worse comes to worse, I may actually just have to spam S-Breaks here. Okay, didn't get it. Yep, I am gonna just slowly go for S-Breaks one at a time. I suppose Josh will be next. There we go. Don't want to fail this early. Did not want to take the risk of that thing attacking Mikey, because it probably would have one-shotted him, because this is hard mode with Trails NPCs, and yeah. Well, I mean, actually, Trails NPCs are not really that bad in later games. Actually, come to think of it, you don't really get NPCs like this in... I know in Cold Steel, whenever they give you a guest character, they're usually fully controllable. They're certainly not nearly as horrible as this, that's for sure. But, like, why the heck were those things even here? Did Blue Blanc leave them in the Doot Doot schoolhouse as an insurance policy? And so begins the occupation of Jenis. Ouroboros Jaegers. Makes sense. And there have already been casualties. Thank goodness you ran. And since we have the phones up and running, we'll be able to call for reinforcements there. It's kind of cool how even with Joshua back, it's still Estelle's team now. Okay, so Ouroboros Archaisms. The place really is occupied. Jaegers, Cougars, and Vogels all over the place. Plus, we have some of those vanguards out in the front. So your whole team is brought here. The question is, though, why is Ouroboros targeting the Royal Academy? Well, you know what that means. It's down to us. And that's true. But we've been through much worse. I mean, we stopped a tank from trying to take down Grancel Castle. But, yeah, Agate's bringing up a good point. There are hostages involved. We can't rush into this. If only we had someone who was trained in infiltration and espionage with us. Oh wait, we do. I like this because this is actually one of the first. There have been a few subtle instances of Joshua's skills helping us, but this is the first instance Joshua is really able to go all out with his training, and actually using it basically for the forces of good now. Well, Joshua's handled more dangerous missions than this since he was 12. Literally. Actually, 11, I think. In fact, he was probably even younger when he was first found by the organization. That's kind of the point of an infiltration. No one else here really has the skills to keep up with him and not give him away, unfortunately. It's nice to know how much these two trust each other by this point. Everyone keeps pointing that out, but it doesn't make it any less true. So it's time for an infiltration. By the way, this whole segment is really cool. Head count on the enemy and hostages. Those are our two objectives here. And fortunately, most of the windows are not covered. So we've found 2 people in there already. You might think there's some kind of bonus BP for not being seen here, but the really cool thing is that Joshua is so awesome at stealth that there is no way to be caught here. You just need to make sure that you look in every window. Well, it doesn't seem like he's dead. Still, they're gonna pay for this. You will want to rotate the camera to make sure that you get every window, and every time you approach the edge of a building, this happens. Yeah, Joshua is going full Black Fang here, and it's actually pretty amazing to get to fully experience Joshua not holding back with his spying skills at all. Like I said, there's actually no way to get caught here. Joshua is just that good. Okay, 4 soldiers in the lower floor of the clubhouse, the cafeteria. Kinda hard to get a read on what's in the second floor from this low, though. And I guess we've found who's behind this. Well, at least our job just got a lot easier. If you remember from FC, Gilbert was a former student of Janus Royal Academy. Yeah, he's mostly doing this out of petty revenge. So, the hilarious thing about all this is that Gilbert has directly seen the student that she's pretending to be several times, and he still has no idea. I mean, then again, the princess's appearance isn't exactly public knowledge to someone like him, but still. Considering that Blue Blanc knows full well who she is, I feel like Ouroboros is sort of messing with Gilbert and not really telling him everything. Oh, that's what you think. You don't realize that reinforcements are already here. This is kind of one of those dangerous situations where somebody has a bunch of hostages but doesn't realize that the person he's looking for isn't here. Which is going to lead to problems, because whenever someone like that is told, look, they're not here, they're usually like, oh, you're obviously lying. You want to make sure you check all the windows of this building, though. Nobody in there, it seems. The hallways are eerily deserted. Seems like there's only one, though. Fortunately, this room isn't guarded. It's kind of nice to see Hans and Jill again. I really like those two, but they don't really get that much focus outside of the times we're actually in Ruin. And you don't spend much time in Ruin in SC. I'm sure Hans is going to want to swap stories with Joshua on a lot of things, but now's not the time. I love this. Yeah, we need a list to make sure we've got everyone. And the 2 members of Student Council probably know exactly who's here right now. Everyone's gonna have to keep their heads down when it happens. I'm sure they'll have a lot to talk about. So, with that, notice our hostage list is actually separate to Occupation of Janus, but here it is. We have Dean Collins, Fauna, 4 of the teachers, 2 other staff, and yeah, that's a pretty big list of students there, so a lot of people to rescue. Okay, there's only one window that we can check in the auditorium here. Doesn't seem like anyone's here right now. And time for another epic ninja run. We're almost done though. Girls' dormitory is the last building on our list. And 2 guards inside the dorm itself. And someone patrolling from the front there. I believe you need to examine the gate to the old schoolhouse in order to progress this segment. So, there's the report. We know pretty much where everyone is and which areas are most heavily guarded and who's responsible for all this. Yeah, I feel like Chloe could quite easily beat him up. Gilbert is not exactly the, not exactly a paragon of, well, anything. Yeah, kind of. I feel like Mayor Dalmore was probably a bad influence on him, honestly. If he understood of someone like, say, Maybell, then maybe things might have been better, but the fact that Dalmore himself was someone who was greedy and would do anything he could to get power, it must have rubbed off on him. Yeah, then, they've got a lot of weaponry that outranges us. Yeah, obviously they developed some kind of ZFG. I mean, the Org Wheel still worked even with a gospel attached to it, so that was probably what they were using then. No, I mean, Agate's had bad experiences with gunfire in the past. Well, I think we all know who's part of the rear infiltration group. Yeah, they've got a lot there. And guess who we've got here? It's the return of Team Bracer from the Grand Cell Arena. Although, I fear for whatever team we put Kana on, just saying. I feel so bad for Kana. She's definitely one of the biggest victims of the Worf effect in this game. She was like competent exactly once, which was during the Ouroboros assault on Ruin in Chapter 7. Anyway, though, at least Annalise is back. Well, I mean, being brainwashed definitely is a lot. Oh yeah, I'm sure, especially since you'd probably be halfway across the lake by the time you found out. Yeah, if anything, Estelle roughed them up a lot more. Yep, reunited. I'm sure Annalise wants to hear every single detail of that. Most major interaction they had previously was beating each other up in the arena, so... yeah. Not really sure they're that familiar with each other right now. Oh yeah, she was definitely helpful in fighting off a threat in the prologue that turned out to be Kurt. Still a little bit bitter about that. Yeah, that was kind of Estelle's lowest point. No, we can't. No, we're gonna have to wait for that. Kurt is kind of as taciturn and occasionally grim as always. Well, conveniently, 4 is the size of a full party in this game, so guess which team we'll be controlling. That's a good point. And we're getting Annalise back, if only very, very temporarily. It's kind of a shame that you don't get to use Annalise very much, but we are actually going to get to control her briefly. And we're getting additional backup. Kurt doesn't need ZFGs. He's gonna be our 4th member. Sadly, this makes Kurt one of the most limited availability playable characters in the whole series. This one quest is the only time you get to use him in the whole game. You know, that old gun never really served you all that well. Maybe you'll do better with the orbital shutdown phenomenon going on. Rhyme Company makes a lot of things, doesn't it? So I believe Ava is actually the one who runs the weapon shop in Ruin, so that's kind of cool. You may have talked to her earlier. That's a way too cheerful way to refer to it that way. Yeah, so that thing's kind of an antique. So, Agate, Zin, Tita, and Shera are going to be part of the assault group as well. So, we have our roles. Let's get to it. So, as they say there, you can remove equipment from other people to give to Annalise and Kurt. You can't actually bring any other people with you, though.
Roger. Let's go.
Acknowledged. Ready?
This is the only time you'll be able to hear Kurt's selection quotes, by the way.
Roger.
Ready?
Okay, so Blue Falcons are a little bit better than what he had equipped before, as is the Regina Garda. Annalise is cool, let's give her the Divine Cross. I'm not biased at all. So these two do have augments, but because they don't have ZFGs, they won't be able to use arts. Well, I mean, technically speaking, you could actually take a ZFG of Joshua or whoever you have it equipped on and give it to one of them, but they're not really meant to be arts users. And the good news is, I'm pretty sure that any quartz that you give them are going to be returned to your inventory afterwards. So, I've switched on Action 4 to Kurt and Annalise, which you should probably do if you're on hard mode. I've set up Kurt more for defense and Annalise more for offense. Move 3 is going to solve a lot of her issues. With that, I think we're ready to begin the assaults.